Alright guys, we're gonna start. Welcome to Global App Initiative and Microsoft. I'll stop yelling. So today, we're gonna listen to some static and develop apps for the Windows platform. Now, who here has a Windows phone? Nice. Awesome. Two. Cool. No. Alright, so basically, I'm going to say something real quick. It's Windows phone programming is pretty awesome, actually. And these guys are going to show it to you. My name is Habib Khan. This is Peter Goulakos and Justin Bernardo. We'll be introducing them shortly. But first I want to say a few things. Global App Initiative is a student organization that builds mobile apps for nonprofits. We have been building iOS and Android applications, and who here in this room has built a mobile application and has published to the store? All right, so the reason why we're doing Windows programming is because we can close the gap between, just making apps on your, computer and then actually getting them published. Jim is going to make it very easy for us. He's back there. He's getting the pizza right now. He makes it very easy for us to publish to the Windows Store, and you can start making money. And if that's something you're interested in, and it uses C# and XAML. C# is a very common programming language that's easy to understand, and it's object-oriented. So basically, you use that for the, for the processing and listening to some static. What's all this? Okay. And then XAML is Extensible Application Markup Language. They're going to talk about that, but basically, one of the things that Justin is going to mention is that you can use this to launch an app to all 3 platforms. So not just Windows Phone. So what you learn here today can be applied to all mobile application development. But today we're going to learn specifically on Windows Phone. And so, who are we? I went over the fact that we are trying to teach students how to build mobile applications, and that means programming languages and also how to design and use the software tools, because that's half the battle, is getting the environment set up, getting comfortable, and that sort of thing. As I've mentioned, my name is Habib, it's Peter, and this is Justin, and this is the beautiful flyer that our designers have built, and it basically has a Windows 8 kind of look to it. And yeah, today we promised you pizza. We're going to give it to you soon. And basically on the bottom left corner is sort of the required environment. And when I say environment is half the battle, Jim is going to help us get set up with Visual Studio, which is the integrated development environment where you code in. And this all might sound a little bit scary, but trust me, it's pretty easy. After you get everything set up, you can just do exactly what Peter and Justin are going to do in less than an hour, and you can get your first applications to the store in an hour, if you know what you're doing. So pay attention. And now that we have pizza, I'd say let's break for pizza. You published an app. There was only 2 people who raised their hand, maybe. The point is, the reason why we're here today is to learn and to actually get started on publishing your own application. Now, Windows makes it easy for us, as I've mentioned before, and Peter and Justin right now, they're going to start explaining to us how to go about that process. And then at the end, I'll talk more on this. That's basically what's coming next. We don't just leave you after this lecture. You have the opportunity to come back next week. We're going to be in Photonics room 206, giving a part 2 version of this lecture. And we also have open hours on Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. specifically for Windows programming. And Global App Initiative in general, we have something pretty much every single day of the week. So join our Facebook group and follow our Twitter page. And even if you're already a member, you might not be aware of these things. But yeah, we meet quite often, and there are a lot of opportunities to work on your application. And this app is all about you. It's all about creating what you want to build, what your vision is. You can put that on an application and show the rest of the world. Show your friends, your family, that kind of thing. So yeah. Here's Peter and Justin with teaching you guys.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to our first Windows 8 app lecture. So you came here for the apps. Let's get to those now. This is what you'll be doing today if you have the tools and you're following along. If not, you can still pay attention as much as you can and absorb everything possible. So this is what we're going to build today in front of you guys. Very simple app. You are able to type in a text box, something like this, Justin, and then press go, and it will print out the name under the text box. So not the most useful app ever, but it has some great concepts that you will benefit from. Another facet of this app is that if you swipe left and right, you can get access to more content of the app. And the technical name for this is a pivot page or pivot control. So we'll be showing you that too, because that's one of the core facets of the Windows Phone UI. So yeah, this is what we're doing.
And we're also going to explain conditional statements. This is an object-oriented language, so you can make conditional statements quite easily. For example, we made a condition.
Yes, we have some. I can press that. We put in since we all really appreciate our President Habib here, we made a special case just for Habib when you type his name in the box. So you press go and it prints out. So yeah, this is a great example of conditional statements, and yeah, we're going to show that to you. So let us.
I'm not the crazy one. It's all of you.
That is true. All right.
Do you want to show the language looks like in the replays?
Let's not do that. Let's not do that yet. Okay, we're going to close this thing. Boom, disappeared. Okay, we're going to start from scratch now and show you how we did that. So, stop that. File, new project. Call it Lecture 1 Reenactment. We're going to make a generic phone app because the other options in this list are great when you already know what you're doing and they do a lot of work for you, but like Pivot app can already do all the work for you that we've done with Pivot, and then the lecture will be 5 minutes long. So yeah, and Panorama too, same kind of concept. We don't want to do that. We want to show you how to do it from scratch. We're going to do the generic Windows Phone app. We're going to do OK. Let's go into a new project. We're targeting Windows Phone 8, the latest version. Open that. Okay. Let me just resize a couple things to make them easier to see. Now let's run through the window, the Visual Studio layout. Over on the left, we have Designer View, which shows you the the IDE's interpretation of your design code. Here's the design, the Xaml, as Habib introduced, the XAML. And then on the right, the rightmost, is the Solution Explorer. And this lists all the files in your app, everything that makes it up. It has all the code and XAML and other kind of profile code that describes what your app is. So let's open up properties here. Let's open this file, WM app manifest. The gist of this file is your app's profile. You give it the description, which is what it will show up on the Windows Store once you submit it. So like, oh, this is my awesome game, you should play it. We put that in there. Then at the bottom, we have the app's icons. And those are just, whatever you want it to be. 3 different sizes for different locations in the OS. Now let's switch over to mainpage.xaml that we had open before. This is this is an instance of application page, the generic page class, that it just defines a viewable section of your app. So we have the language here, and we have the interpretation of the language that you've written on the left. So yeah, those are the two things that we'll be working on in this lecture, and then Justin will be showing you the code behind, or the C# section of the this main page, at which well, I'll let him talk about that. That's his domain there. So let's start. Let's actually start laying this thing out. So gonna resize things again. Just make this a little. Okay, that's fine actually. Okay. As you saw in the example I gave and I showed you at first, we want to have that swiping pivot control where you can scroll to see more content. So we're going to set that up hard-coded in the XAML. So I'm going to delete everything in here. A little counterproductive if you want to make a real app, but for learning purposes, we're going to start from the beginning. So let's go here. We kept the original grid just to keep the layout in order and not messy. So yeah, let's start with this. Phone, pivot, header. No, just kidding. Sorry about that. The attribute is title. So let's call it lecture 1. Lecture 1. Okay. And you see Visual Studio automatically created the ending tag for this pivot. So I don't know if too many people are familiar with HTML and XML, but everything in XAML has an opening tag and a closing tag, and everything that will be in this pivot is between those tags. So let's add a couple of pivot sections that you saw on the top, like name and result. So let's phone, pivot item, header, let's call it name. Boom, and you saw on the left over there that the IDE read through your XAML, and it updated the visual over here on the left. So you can get instant feedback as you're typing the XAML. So let's make another one, because we want two sections. Phone, pivot item. Let's call this one, I don't know, stuff, or I don't know. Yeah, that looks good. So now we have 2. Let's switch back to the first one. Just click once inside the first pivot item. Then add a grid inside each. So we can, if you don't have a grid, then the phone will not create a nice looking layout for you. Let's do the same for the next one. For anyone that's following along, is this too fast? Too slow? I need to just write?
Yeah, someone just ran into the issue of not having a Windows Phone 8 SDK already installed. So everyone should make sure that, you know, if you do have Visual Studio, download the Windows Phone 8 SDK, and then you can do this stuff.
Should have done this before. I'm really sorry, guys. Increase the font size. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna just put the Solution Explorer away now so we can see a little more. Okay. Is that better? Okay. Good. Okay, back to the first pivot item, because we want to fill that with some content like we had in the sample. So, I'm going to, where's that sheet? Sorry. I'm going to run through the really hard-coded way to make UI elements, just to show you that you don't want to do this every time you make an app. Here we're making a button, so it doesn't really matter what we, whoops, what did that happen? Okay, blah, content, call it like button, horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, whatever, you know, this doesn't really matter, we'll just put on the top. Does anyone have a question or no? No? Okay. Width 150, okay. Boom, we just made a button. Yay. But we can type all that code out every single time we want to make a button in Visual Studio. We don't want to do that every time though, because that's tedious and unnecessary. So let's get rid of that. And I will show you the better way to do that. Open up, you can see, let me close that again to show you where it should be on your IDE. Right there, I believe, a little above. The name is the Toolbox window, the Toolbox pane. And that is where all the UI elements of your app live, and you can drag them out from there. So let's do it the better way. Let's go up to Common Controls. Let's drag in a text box. Put it up there. Press Alt. Put it inside the grid. We want it to be inside there. Let's also make a button. That little submit button, that go button that we had. Okay, button. Text block. We want 2 of them. Text block. Nope, not text box. Text block. Okay. Good. Notice how Visual Studio created these 4 elements down here inside the first pivot item for you, instead of you having to type all those out. That's a very nice feature. So now what I'm going to do is save a little time, and so you can see all these text boxes and everything on one screen. I'm going to delete these. You guys don't delete this. I'm just going to drag in some pre-made code. This is a different one. I didn't open it up. Okay, here it is. These are the same buttons, but I put them on separate lines so that you can see them a little easier with the large font. So, okay. maximize Visual Studio again, copy that where they were. Okay, good. No. They're inside this grid, as you can see. Now, this isn't the neatest arrangement of UI elements over here. So let's put them in a nice arrangement and have them be symmetrical. So what we're going to do for that is use rows and columns. Let's make three rows and two columns, and then assign each element of the buttons to a row and to a column, so they'll all be symmetrical within the columns, and it will be able to stretch the different screen sizes and all that, and just generally be in a nice order. So let's start this grid dot row definitions. What this is just saying, okay, let's make some let's start creating some rows, and then right now we're going to add a row definition with a height of 150. Let's say this is 150 pixels. And then close that tab. Second row, height, star. What this star means, instead of hard coding a specific pixel value, you put a star to make it take up all the space that it can. So you can see over here on the left, there's a divider between row 0 and row 1. Row 1 takes up the rest of the available space, while row 0 has 150 pixels of space, and that's just secure. It will not change. The bottom one will just dynamically get bigger, fill the screen. Let's do the same for columns. Column definitions. Okay. Column definition, width, and okay. Let's make this 2 star. Close that tag, and then column definition with 1 star. This is kind of the same concept. 2 stars means it will take 2 parts of the available width, and 1 star means it will take 1 part. So really what this means is that this column on the right here will take up 1/3, while the column on the left will take up 2/3 of the available space. So let's go down again. Yeah. Okay, I made a mistake. I should have made 3 rows. I'm sorry about that. Okay, 2 stars. Yeah, because we want 1 text block to go in this row and the other text block to go in the bottom. So 3 rows. One with the bottom with 2 star and the top one with 1 star. So 1/3 and 2/3. Okay.
So that's what the star does?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more, you add up all of the stars that you made, like 2 star and 1 star, that'll make 3 parts. So then 1 row will get 1/3 because you have like, it's kind of like variable multiplication. If you don't, yeah. And then 2 star will mean 2/3 of the available width. Height, just kidding, sorry, height. So we see now we've got a nice kind of grid on the left and the designer over there. Okay. Now what we've got to do is assign the text boxes and the button to a row. All we've got to do there is make a new parameter of the text box tag, right there, that text box, and we'll make a new parameter called grid.row and make it 0. Grid.row, grid.column, 0. Let me delete this margin because that's why it went, you can't see it, because that's left over from dragging it in from the toolbox. So yeah. Also, let's make the width a little shorter. So it can, like 250 maybe. Let's make it 300 look good. 300. Same for the go button. Grid.row 0, because 0 is the first row in the designer, the row definitions. Grid.column, and we want 1 for the column, because 1 refers to the one on the right, and 0 is the one on the left, and it counts from left to right. Let's also delete the margin on this one. Boom. There's our button. Now, just to center it, let's change its horizontal alignment to center. So now it oriented itself in the middle of that column. Okay. Same thing for this one. I'll go a little quicker just to save some time. Row 1, grid dot column 0. We want it to start in the left column, but now we're going to introduce a new attribute of this text block, column span, because we don't want to limit that text block to just the column on the left. We want to stretch it to be the width of the whole phone and then center the text inside that text block. So a column span 2, so it will grow to span 2 of the columns that we made. Also delete the margin on that one. And there it is. Horizontal alignment, let's make that center again. So it'll go to the center of the screen. And text, let's make it hi. My name is, so that'll be the top of the little label on there. Let's also make more alignment, text alignment, centered in the box. Font size 24 maybe? Yeah, 24 looks good, just so we can see it. Okay. Last one. Text block, this will be the last one. Grid.row 1, because we want the second row, but it starts from 0. So we do 1. Grid.column 0, this starts on the left. Then finally, grid.column span 2. Again, delete the margin that was added automatically. Okay, never mind, make that row 2, because row 1 was the other one. Okay. Horizontal alignment, center. Text alignment, center again. Okay. Let's also make the font size bigger too. Font size equals. Okay, let's make that 32. We'll show the name in a bigger font. Okay. Let's just delete this out so it stays blank, so it just doesn't show up as text block. And then just clean up the text box up here. Text box. That's gone. And then make the button say something more interesting, like go. Okay. So there we go. We've laid out the UI in a grid format, which is very symmetrical and will adapt to different sizes of phone and the orientation. Okay. So, last couple things that I need to prepare for Justin's section is we need to give, so in the C# section of the app, you're going to need to refer to these variables with some kind of name, like an instance variable name. So you can refer to it programmatically and set its text types, set its properties, and then tell it to do things. And we can define that name in the Xaml file. So because we want to get the text out of the text box, we need to give that text box a name. So we can refer to it in the C# file, which Justin will show you. So you declare that by typing X:, then name, then whatever you want, like name, or call it input name. Input name. We'll do the same for the last text block, because we'll be changing the text of that text block. Again, X name, and call that name text block. Boom. Yeah, Brian.
Is there a significance behind the X? Do you use that for anything else?
There are a couple things. I mean, it looks like you can assign it a field modifier name or UID, and that prefix, I believe, is out here. The X is that little prefix, which you can actually see if you've done any Android program. You know you have to prefix everything by Android : and then like horizontal alignment, vertical alignment. This the same thing. This is similar because you're declaring where kind of the format of your XAML comes from this website that has the definition of what the XAML should look like, and by typing X, the Visual Studio will know how to interpret the name attribute. Okay, did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Maybe that wasn't the best explanation. Justin could give a better one about that. But that's where X is coming from. All right.
Because Xaml is also a class that runs in behind, and you can call the class in the C#. So when you actually do the programming aspect of it, you can call anything here in the using C#. So anything there can be modified programmatically.
Yeah.
And next is just like the class itself. It defines that class.
Okay. Last thing I'm gonna do, then I'll be done. I'm gonna add an app icon to our app, because by default it has a very generic icon, and we need to spice things up a little. So I decided I would make the app icon a nice smiley face. So I'm opening up WM app manifest, Windows Mobile app manifest.xml in the Solution Explorer over there on the right. And down here you see it's just this really, really simple star kind of icon. So let's go and browse for a different one. I'm gonna go find my smiley that I made. Okay. SkyDrive, okay. I believe, yeah, I think this one. Okay, nice. Okay, there we go. So that is gonna be our wonderful app icon. Yes.
Is there a specific requirement of size that says this pixel has to be 400 by 300, or like a 4:3 ratio, or what
There is actually, if you, you can actually see, let me go over here. I made 3, this is the original icon, and I think Visual Studio actually shrunk it for me because I just downloaded this off the internet and it's 600 by 600, but I don't think that's what it wanted, but I think it did it for me. The other 3 sizes, the tile icon is 100 by 100, 159 by 159, and 336 by 336. And those are just for like, on your start screen, if you configure your app to have a wide icon, it will be a certain size. If you wanted to make a medium icon, it will be that size. And if you wanted to make a small icon, it will be a different size. So yeah, but those are defined. You can look those up.
This actually becomes really important when publishing to the Windows Store. You need to have your icons set up, and they need to be the appropriate size, or else your app would not pass the requirements to be published. So that's actually really important. You need to, it varies for phone, there's specific pixel requirements, and Windows Store has their own Same thing for Windows 8 and Windows Store 8. There's requirements for the size of the icons to pass publishing.
Yeah. Alright. So I did that. Actually, why don't I go ahead and insert the 100 by 100 small tile, medium size tile 159. I believe I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm blanking, but I think I'm doing it right. Large, it's not letting me do that. Let's just not do that for now because it'll save a little time.
There's a checkbox that says support for large tiles, that's why it's not selected.
Thank you.
But
Yeah,
you
yes.
don't need to do it. It's
No, that's
optional,
cool.
obviously.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I forgot. Okay. That is it for the layout. Now, Justin will take over and show you the C# and XAML relationship, how they intertwine, and do the logic of the app. And yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, designing is probably the longest part of this because C# is really easy to use and very intuitive. So if you go to your Solution Explorer, you're going to see there's a main page.xaml. This is the page we're on right now, but you're going to see that there's this left arrow button. Click there and you're going to notice that there's a .xaml.cs. That's our C# file. The .xaml.cs, you can see that there's a relationship there. The relationship is that the programming language will actually be able to call from this design class, and we can actually just go in and program the button here because when we, I'll show you right now actually. So let's just actually open up .xaml.cs. A lot of things are already created for you. System, this is basically the .NET framework up here. It's code that Microsoft has already prepared for you. So when you download Visual Studio, that's what's running in the background. It pretty much makes your life easier by having basic functions already established for you. You're going to notice that there's pretty much nothing in here, so let's start by programming the button. We're going to return to our main page.xaml. Let me actually just go up here. Visual Studio makes it really easy for you. Then rather than actually having to create the class itself, you can just go to the button and double click on it, and it creates the class for you. Button, click, object center. This is all connected to the XAML file that Peter has already created. So we're going to create a couple of things. Because this is there is some logic behind it. We have to think about what could be possible inputs. There could be, because we cleared out the text block, it's already empty. So if you press go, it's null, and that can actually cause it to crash. So instead, we're going to use an if statement, a conditional statement, to avoid that. So if, and I also want to show you one more thing before I do that, actually. We go under properties. You're going to see that the name here is input name. That was what Peter had done on XAML. But rather than having to use XAML itself, you can just use the properties side and actually just pretty much do everything by hand. XAML is for people who find it faster, are accustomed to HTML languages, and for them they can just code it hardly, but instead there's a properties bar that you can just open up and just do everything from there, and Visual Studio sets it up for you. So now that we know that the name's input name, we need to find out how this is going to, how to check for when it's empty. So the way we did it is that we checked for, we get this out of the string. So we're going to create a string. Unlike Java, you don't have to capitalize the S here. It's just everything's lowercase right now. Except when you get to methods, then you have to use uppercase for the first. It's always uppercase in methods. We're going to create a string called name, and we're going to equal that to the text box. Notice that I didn't have to type everything. What is below me is something called Intellisense. I'll show you how that works in a second. So text, there we go. Text is actually not a method, so you don't have to use the method end right there. So now we have a string called name. So now we want to check for the size of name. So we're going to create an if statement. We're going to check to see whether or not it is empty. Well, name don't like that. The exclamation point simply means does not equal. It's a not modifier for operations. So we're going to make sure that it doesn't equal 0. What that means is that the length of the string is not 0, so then we can run what we want it to run. I'm going to create the bracket there in the closing. Notice that Visual Studio changes it for me. This makes it a little bit easier to read. So throughout when you're coding, you're going to notice that Visual Studio moves certain things that you're typing around, and that's just to increase readability, so that way you can find your mistakes faster. So now that we've established that the length of the name is not equal to 0, and therefore there's something in that value, something in that text box, we're going to change the input, the text block that Peter had set up here, and we'll show it to you. The second text block and name is something. There it is. And we're going to go to the properties, and notice that it's called name text block. This he had hardcoded it using Xaml. Again, you didn't have to. You could have just gone to properties and put it under name text block. Now you're going to go to xaml.cs, and we're going to change the text block to the size of the name. So we're going to change the what's in there to what we had defined as name. There you go. Yeah, you're going to see that Visual Studio constantly underlines your thing to show you that there's a mistake there. Once it disappears, you notice that there's no mistake, but it's always keeping track as to when it won't compile. So it makes it very easy for you to say, oh, I'm making a mistake here. How do I fix this? After we have changed the text box to the text within that text block to the name that we have defined, we're going to change what is put in the text block on the text box to empty, so that way what you have put in disappears. So we're going to put name input dot text is equal to the empty string. Oh, yeah, sorry. Input name, sorry, not any input. That was my bad. Input name, because that's what was the name of the text box. So now, once you press that button, the name, what was in the text block, is going to be converted to a string. We call that string name, and we're going to move that value to the text block. And it's going to show up when we press itself to the empty string, and what's going to be displayed is nothing. So after you type in your name, you put in, it transfers over. Yes?
Why can't you just use name instead of input to name.text?
We're right here.
Yeah, why can't you just say name? Because haven't you defined it?
Oh, this right here is actually the text box. We're emptying the text box. When we use this line of code, we're referring to this right here.
Okay.
So essentially, once you run the app, you're going to put some value in here, some name or whatever you want, and it's going to, by default, be a string. If that string is not of size 0, then we're going to transfer that over to the name text block.text by making a reference to that string. Now all this is happening during the application. You're not going to see this run. You're just going to press the button, The code does what it does and it moves it over to the text block. So let's say I was to put on Xaml, I put in like Brian. I put in his name, I put Brian in here and I press go. What's happening is that we're stringing the name equal to whatever is in that text box. If that name is larger than 0, means that it wasn't left empty, we're going to transfer that, or we're going to say that the name text block, which would be like a label in other IDEs, is equal to that string. And then we're going to empty the text block. This is what the language is doing right here. So now we did do an if statement, so now we need we're going to do the else statement. It pretty much takes care of finding out if it's 0, we're going to change what it was. So here we're going to create a message box. So message box result, in itself is a class, and we're going to create result is equal to message box, just message box dot show, and then we're going to say something. What's logically happening here is that the text box was left empty. So we're going to say please enter a value or please enter a name. Then we're going to check for them to see if they clicked outside or if they clicked OK. So we're going to say if result, remember result is an instance of the class message box result, equals message box result dot OK. Input name dot focus. What this does is that it returns back to the text box, and then you change what you put in. So let's see how this runs. So we're going to put in name Brian. I see him in front of me. We're going to press go, and notice that it moved the name that was in here to the text block below it, and then it emptied out the name. That's how the code has it ordered. We could have flipped it around because we had created the variable name beforehand. But the way we had ordered is that we take the name, move it to the text block, and then we erase the text box. But now let's have a little bit more fun. Now we have the idea as to what's going on here. So let's stop that and have more fun with conditional statements. Here. Oh yeah, I'll show you. I'll do that right next. So let's go back to the if statement. This if statement, again, the length of the string is greater than 0, or at least it does not equal 0. And we're going to look for a particular name, or whatever, like if a certain value is put in. This is how we did for Habib. And we're going to search for Habib. We're also going to search for it lowercase. There is another way to go about doing this, but this is the way to show it clearly and conceptually as to what's going on. So it's looking for two different kinds of strings here. It's looking for Habib with a capital H and Habib with a lowercase h. And we're going to change what the value of the name will be. Notice that the string name is declared before any of these if statements. So the scope of this variable is within it's within the scope of the variable. So we're going to change the value of name to some other string. Our app said crazy, so we're going to change it to crazy. Else, we're just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy and paste this here. Maybe we don't need AF summing. Oh, we don't need that actually. Okay, let's not do that. Let's just leave it like that. So what's happening here is that we check to see if the length of the name is greater than 0, or at least does not equal 0. We check to see if the name was a B. If it is, we change the value of the name to what we want it to say, and then we do the transfer here. So let's do the emulator. So let's say Peter. Peter. Now let's put in Habib. Okay. Now let's just not put in anything. Please enter a name. That was our condition. We wanted to make sure that the length of the field was greater than 0, and it wasn't in this case. So now it returns us back to the text box. Yes.
When did you create the OK button for the when you didn't enter a name? It's generated automatically.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the message box result class.
Oh.
We didn't have to erase any content within the text box. I should also mention that. Since our condition was looking for length of 0, like greater than 0, and it was length 0, so we went to the else statement. We just wanted to go back to the text box so that way they input something. Had they put in something like numbers or anything, we can put more conditional statements to return to the text block, but then we would have to empty it out like we did here, where we say input name.text equals the empty string. But that's something we can demonstrate during lab hours. I'm not sure if Habib has sent out this email, but we will have open lab hours from 6 to 8 on Thursday. If any of you are interested to do some more complex things, I can show you, go through you with that and show that.
Yeah, that'll be in MCS B20, and we can't send you an email unless you've signed that sheet, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's up here in the front in case you haven't signed the sheet yet. Come up afterwards.
Right now, we're just showing you some of the basic things you can do, some if statements, and then just some conditional statements and checking for errors. You can, so again, go, please enter name. OK is generated automatically. Press OK. Go out here, and it goes back to the text box. Let me just type in Timmy. It goes back. So that's logically what's going on here with the code. Earlier today, I also wanted to show a couple items. I made a basic math app, just addition and subtraction. There are ways to break this app because I did not check for variables that aren't numbers. During lab hours, I can show you how to capture that and then like accommodate for it and change it. But let's show a couple basic functionals. What changes? Oh, that's right. I was going to navigate. I forgot to close the other. No, I didn't. That's right. There you go. So we're just going to input a couple of numbers. We're going to put in 5. We're going to put in 3. We're just add them together. 8, and we're going to subtract them 2. We're going to put in a larger value here, say like 9. We'll add them together. 14, subtract them, -4. We're just going to press clear and do everything out. So this is basically using the same functions that we have discussed in Peter's app. So let's actually just go through the language and trace it out. Main page. Basic math. We created 2 text box fields. We emptied them the same way that I emptied them the same way that Peter did. I went through properties. I went through the content here in properties, which again just makes it easier. Text is empty. And then I just clicked on the buttons. So this is the addition button, and by default, anything put into a text box is a string. So I could break this app by having declared this as an integer first. No, it won't work because the error that comes up is that it cannot completely convert type string to int. So be careful for that. Obviously you can combine these pieces of code together, but I just wanted to show you clearly what's going on. So I declared whatever is in one of the text boxes as a string, a num1 string equal to that, whatever's in there. And the same thing for the second text box. Then I parse them. If you're able to, you can convert them to an integer value, I parse them. So int num1 is equal to int.parse method parentheses num1 string. What's happening here is that it's converting the type string to type integer, and the second one is doing the exact same thing. The result text block then shows num1 plus num2 dot toString. If I was to erase this right now, this will not work because you cannot convert type into string implicitly, which is why I put them in parentheses. Well, yeah. And then that should fix it. The subtraction button, I wanted to show you how you can just pretty much combine those 2 pieces of code to make it more concise. I create int num1 is equal to int.parse, then the value of whatever is in the text box. Since by default, whatever is in there is a string value, what's inside is a string, and then we'll just parse it to an integer. Same thing for int num2, and then result text block num1 minus num2 equal dot toString. The clear button essentially just returns all fields to the empty string. And that's pretty much showing you other neat things you can do logically just by knowing how C# works and how conversions between int and string works. And the same thing goes for character string, double string. There's a lot of ways to parse other values into others. Obviously, if I was to run this, Apple would break if I was to put in like a W or a Q or something because it didn't check for it. And that's something I can go over on Thursday with you all if you're interested to come into lab hours. So that's a couple of things you can do with C#. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it.
Alright, so that was nice. I mean, when it comes to app development, people get paid a lot of money to do this, and in an hour, how much did you think we would cover? This is a good start, I think, and if you are interested in learning more, I would highly suggest to come either in lab hours and definitely for part 2, when we're actually going to be giving out prizes. So for the best apps developed. So be creative with whatever you learn here, and there's a lot of documentation. The one thing about C# programming that I love the most is that it has the best community out there. I programmed in Java over the summer, and I couldn't get help on anything. Well, there's definitely a lot out there, but I still think that C# has the better community. And Windows 8 programming, you can do a lot with what you've learned today, and you can always learn in Google or Bing for more. Yeah.
On Windows development.
Go ahead.
In regards to Windows development, there is actually a startup called Xamarin that uses their own IDE that allows you to develop applications using C# and actually deploy whatever app you made to Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. So if you start off with Windows development, likelihood is you can make more apps for more marketplaces and then promote yourself better and faster. So if you start off with Windows development, you pretty much already have a giant resources available to you. There's also, if you don't know C# a little bit, or you don't, there's a little bit more things you want to cover. Microsoft has actually created an entire website with a mini series that will help you start from the beginning on C#, and the series is for absolute beginners. They go first downloading the IDE, and then teaching you the language, and then you can go to the phone, Windows Phone application development, and then it will guide you through each step necessary to get your app onto the marketplace.
All right. Yeah, so basically today I was going to have Jim, and I will have Jim, explain a little bit on how to get Visual Studio set up with DreamSpark. That would be the way to get started, and that will be the last thing that we talk about today. So Jim, if you could...
Yeah, can I use that machine?
Yeah, for sure. And then this slide had something on like the open hours. And if you haven't gotten a handout yet, this handout has the information on the open hours and next Monday's part 2.
So for those I haven't introduced myself. My name's Jim O'Neill. I'm a developer evangelist at Microsoft. So I do a lot of this that these guys did, and I have to say I'm pretty amazed at what they've learned so quickly, and the fact that they were brave enough to code live in front of an audience. That's one of the most nerve-wracking things, to sit up here and try to type code while you know that everybody in the audience is looking at every keystroke. So kudos to them for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I think it's so much more useful to see that happen than to just blindly show slides, because now you can kind of see how the things are created. But what I wanted to just briefly chat about is everybody that signed the sign-in sheet has an email hopefully waiting in your inbox that will have come from Microsoft DreamSpark. So some of you might be familiar with DreamSpark. DreamSpark is a program that Microsoft provides software, a lot of development tools, so database servers, and those sort of things for students to get involved in developing for the platform. Now the invitation that you have is specifically to something called DreamSpark Premium. So when you log into your email and you're asked to I'm having trouble with the keyboard. When you're asked to verify your email or whatever verification link is in there, you will be brought to a site that looks like this. Okay, and you'll be asked to log in. So you will log in with whatever address you put up on this sign-in sheet. For most of you, it was a BU address, but if it wasn't, then log in with whatever Gmail or whatever you used. And so I'm going to log in with mine, so you can kind of see how this all works. Again. Okay, so you all should log in and see something very similar to this. The only thing you won't be able to do is administration. To build applications for Windows or Windows Phone, you have to build on a Windows 8 machine. So you have to have Windows 8 installed. How many of you have Windows 8 in the audience? Actually, more than I thought. What's cool is that through DreamSpark Premium, you can get Windows 8. So if you're running Windows 7, you can get a free copy of Windows 8 and upgrade your machine if you'd like. If you're running a Mac, we have many ways you can use Windows 8 on a Mac as well. There's a couple of different ways, and what I'm going to do is send an email out after this. I'm not going to tell you what all those ways are now. I'll send you an email out after this that will guide you through the process of setting up your Macintosh to run Windows 8 so that you can do the development. But through DreamSpark Premium, you will be able to download any of the stuff that you're seeing here. So one of the things you'll be able to download is Windows 8 or 8.1. You can download 8.1, that would be fine. The other thing that you can download from here is Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is the tool that you were seeing them use. So Visual Studio is available here as well. Essentially, this is just like a shopping cart. You pick what you want, you put it in the shopping cart, you check out, it's all free, and then you will be given directions to download the software. And there will be registration keys as well for the different pieces of software. So when you install, you'll have just cut and paste the registration key, and you'll be all set up. So you'll have Windows, you'll have Visual Studio, and you'll be able to do everything these guys were doing here, even if you're running a Mac. So what I'll do after get home tomorrow or tonight, a little bit later tonight or early tomorrow, I'll send you all an email that gives you a little bit more detailed instructions on how to do all this. But it will all be available to you. The other thing that I will add to this is the way to get your publication account as well. So if you're eventually going to publish to the store, you have to be a publisher. And by doing that, you have to essentially sign up for an account on the Windows Phone Store. That's also going to be free, and that's just another process you'll go through. So it will take a while to get you set up, but once you're set up, you'll be golden, and you can publish as many applications as you want, make money off of those applications as well, if you're so inclined. So I'm conscious of time, so I'll let it go here, but look for an email, and if you did not sign on this sheet, make sure you do before the end of the night. I'll get your email and make sure you're on the list.
Thanks, Jim. That just about wraps it up, but I want to remind you that if you want to develop for Apple, which is something I'm doing, you have to pay $99 to get a developer account. If you want to publish in Android, I think you got to pay like $25 or something, right? So they're making it easy for us, and there's clear benefits, and I mean, I do all of them, but there are advantages. Yeah. And the last thing is basically the next Monday, 6 p.m., same time, Photonics Room 206. 6 p.m. there'll be more pizza and actual prizes. And I totally forgot to bring the headphones. They're free headphones. Shouldn't have mentioned it. All right. So for those of you who missed out, come next time and I'll give you a free pair. Oh yeah, that's true. All right, you guys will get them if you show up to the next one. So Monday, 6 p.m. Fo 206. And this Thursday, if you're interested in going to lab hours, that's MCS. That's 111 Covington Mall. It's right there. 6 p.m. Thursday. It's all on this sheet. If you haven't gotten one, come up and get one. If you haven't signed in, come up and sign in. Thank you for sitting down for so long. Have a wonderful Monday. Thank you.